Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's film launch. It's mental health wellbeing in the LGBTQ plus community. So it's the film launch and webinar. My name is Dina Romero, and I'm the Cabinet Member for Children, Young People, Communities and Culture. And I'm delighted to have been asked to introduce this event. This month, February, is an annual observance of lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender history and the history of the gay rights movement and related civil rights movement. It is an opportunity for all of us to celebrate diversity and to learn about the experiences of lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender people. As a council, we are proud to work with a wide variety of partners to make sure that LGBTQ plus History Month is a month for everyone. We are delighted to be working with Boys in Mind, a local organisation who highlight mental health and well-being within the LGBT plus community. They have worked in partnership with Space at Off the Record, Bath and North East Somerset, and feature young people sharing their experiences of being part of the LGBTQ plus community, and we'll be talking about mental health wellbeing. The aim of the film and this webinar is to increase visibility of LGBTQ plus young people and their experiences so others are able to gain from hearing about these experiences and their coping mechanisms and feel less alone and know where to go for some support. I'm also delighted that we've had this opportunity, and I hope you saw at the opening our welcoming slide, the competition winning design for a logo that we were going to use for Baines's LGBTQ plus History Months. So this has been designed for us by Mia Hammond, and you will, I'm sure, be delighted as we were to see her excellent design. And now I'd like to move on and introduce the panel. So we have Will Reid, who is the Youth Advisor for Boys in Mind, Andrew Hasenrack, who is the Filmmaker for Boys in Mind, Chloe Andrews, one of our film participants, Ethne Field, another film participant, and Off the Record Space representative, Alyssa Kill. So I now would like to move on to Will to take us on with the webinar. Thank you.
Hi everyone, so thank you Dina for introducing me. Yeah, my name's Will Reid, my pronouns are they, them, and I'm a youth advisor at Boys in Mind. So that sort of entails me taking part in webinars like this one and actually sort of leading on film projects like this film that we're going to be looking at later. So I've really wanted to do this film ever since I've been in Boys in Mind. It's been a real sort of passion project because I really wanted to create the representation I felt that I never really had, to see other LGBT young people talking about their own experiences openly and you know, in a way that is so powerful. And so it's just been so amazing to actually be a part of this process and to see sort of now the final product really. So to sort of do the film, we kind of gathered, as we sort of do at Boys in Mind, it's completely youth-led. And so we put the call out to LGBT young people and basically tried to gather opinions from all kinds of people how we should do the film. And so we sort of came up with the questions that we were going to ask, we came up with the target audience, we came up with all these kind of different things. And so the when we did manage to get into space and actually do the filming, which was also then done by us, it was the young people filming each other and asking the questions to each other. It was really just a creation by young people, you know, for young people. And so this is why it's so powerful, because it is completely out of the minds of young people and really what we want to see, I suppose. So yeah, so we sort of make films to really film has this real power of connecting to people. And actually we felt that, we know that when young people are talking to other young people, that creates that real representation, and people can see themselves in the film, and so it really can have an impact for them. And so yeah, we sort of put this film together, and Andrew, who's going to be coming on later, edited it. But that's a little bit about the film, and so might as well watch it. So yes.
I'm Ash, I use he, they pronouns, and I do not know what I identify as because it's confusing.
Hi, my name is Chloe. I go by they, she pronouns, and I am queer and gender fluid.
So my name's Will, my pronouns are he, him or they, them. I'm queer and gender non-conforming.
Hi, I'm Ethne, I use they, them pronouns and I identify as non-binary.
Hi, I'm Levi, my pronouns are they, them.
I'm Julia and I use she, her pronouns, and I identify as bisexual and as queer.
Well, I knew that I liked women from the time when I was around 12 or 13, and when I figured out, I was like, am I pansexual? And that didn't quite fit, so then I figured out I was bisexual, and I was quite happy because I was like, this makes sense. I'm good now. I've finished. Spoiler alert, I wasn't finished.
I knew that there was going to be ups and downs coming out. I mean, going from one thing to another is hard enough, and then having to explain it to people, that's so much more fun.
As I went through puberty more, I started feeling really wrong, and so like, especially PE lessons, they were a nightmare, which I'm sure is very common for a lot of people in the LGBT community. But I felt so like strange and like I didn't fit in.
I sort of first came out as bi, and then I came out as gay, and then I sort of started to have other thoughts, and then ended up coming out as, recently queer and gender non-conforming.
Coming out as gay and then kind of having to come out again as bi, which was very unfortunate because a lot of people treated me like I was doing it for attention, because it felt like a walking it back, it felt like. And of course, in reality, this was just my evolving understanding of who I am as a person.
I was aware that I had certain feelings that didn't feel kind of right or normal, and I kind of suppressed any emotion. I wouldn't feel anything for anyone, just because that was the easiest way for me to cope with it.
Finding out like the term non-binary was like, it was so, like it just felt so good, because I heard it and I heard it be explained, and I was like, that's me, that's who I am.
It was actually my friend who came out to me first as bi, and I found it quite funny because he messaged me and said that, and I was like, oh my god, this is when I got to do it, and so I came out as bi to him, and actually you started to see, even just then, that domino effect of when one person comes out, other people feel, oh my goodness, it's not just me, and then feel included and feel like they can, they can see themselves in one another.
I came out as bisexual in a Catholic girls' school, and that was incredibly fun, as you can imagine. Like, I can think of myself and one other girl in my year who was out publicly, and the other people were just like, especially in the girls' school, like if you come out as anything other than straight, people would be like, oh, do you fancy me now? Are you gonna like pounce on me? And I'm like, I'm not a predator, and also you're not my type. So.
It's not that my school wasn't unsupportive, it's just that they weren't explicitly supportive. So sometimes it sort of felt like we didn't exist to them, like we were just, it was like a blank wall we would like try to talk to, and so that was quite hard because I felt like I didn't have anywhere to go.
Secondary school wasn't a great time, and it got to a point where I just felt so alone, and I cared so deeply about what so many people thought. Those people who I can't even remember their names now, and I'd lie and just sob because this person said this or this person said that.
They didn't acknowledge it, honestly. It was just like, yeah, okay, we don't really mind, you do your thing, just please don't come to us about it. And don't talk to us about it, basically. So it was a bit of, you can be yourself, but please don't bother us with it.
I was very fortunate that when I had come out as gay, I gathered that strength to actually get involved with the student mental health team and actually come out to the whole school in school assemblies.
It was, again, like a domino effect. We'd all basically come out at the same time in the same month or two, which was a big thing. I mean, it was weird because it was like 90% of our friend group had ended up coming out.
Being able to come out as gay to, yeah, it was about 1,300 people or something, was a cathartic moment, I think, for me in my own journey. And it was also a kind of an empowering moment at the same time, because I saw people who, you know, I heard of people who came up to me and thanked me for that, and yeah, just thanked me for making that representation, I suppose, because that's a really important thing, seeing yourself represented.
I think I've been really lucky in that the people I have encountered that are part of the community have been really loving towards me and really accepting. And I know bisexual people get a lot of bad rep, even from within the community. So I have been really fortunate in that. And I think for me it's just been a place of love and a place of acceptance, and a place for me to be who I am and fully be myself and just not be afraid to share that with people.
I'm privileged enough that I come from a very supportive environment, my family, my friends, so I've been very, very lucky in that sense, but I think that support isn't always the same thing as understanding.
There's been hard times, but the queer experiences I've had, especially with other members of the community, are some of the best experiences of my life.
Since I've been, you know, come out as queer and gender non-conforming, the way that that's got me through it is, you know, really fortunate that I've been able to find a community of people. So that's the Bristol Ballroom community, who I am able to, and it's really recent, but I'm able to just feel like there's a group of people who understand me.
Even if your family isn't supportive, or God forbid if they're openly hostile, there are other kinds of family, and you can find that same support and that same level of love and that same level of care from other people, and hey, they might even be understanding as well.
My friends were all really cool with it. My grandmother, she still doesn't really get it, I don't think. She's like, yeah, you'll find some nice guy and then this will all be over. And I'm like, Grandma, that's not how it works.
I'd say keep going. You're so strong. You've done so well to get so far. I'm so proud of you. And although it's a bit cliche, the world is better with you in it. And you will find people that accept you. And also, you have so many cool haircuts that come in the future.
In 10, 15 years, you will be a completely different person. In every sense, not just in your identity, but in just who you are and your experiences. And if you want to meet that person, the only way you're going to do it is to become them.
I wish I could just go and give that kid a hug and just be like, you are not defined by other people's opinions of you. You're not, you're not expected to be anything but yourself.
I think self-belief, really, because I think deep down everybody knows who they are, everybody has that feeling of what they want their life to be. And so I suppose it'd be a message of don't forget yourself, I guess, and don't ever let that knowledge of yourself be defined by anybody else.
I think it would be that I don't have to have it all figured out immediately. It's okay to not know who I am, it's a process. It's okay to change my labels if the one I picked initially didn't feel right. And just don't worry so much about what other people think of you. Just accept who you are, find the people around you who accept who you are as well, and surround yourself with those and focus on those people. And there is love out there, if you can find it, yeah.
Amazing. So that was the film, and it's just a bit mad for me to watch that back and think how how far everybody involved has come to really have their voices heard like that. So yeah, so I did want to say, if at any point anybody has any questions, you can pop them in the Q&A section on the chat, and we'll possibly get to them later. But just if you had some questions after that. And I wanted to thank Harriet and Jack from Space, because they were really, really helpful in getting people involved and actually lending us the space to film. And so we couldn't have done it without them. I'm now going to hand over to Andrew, who was the filmmaker, just to talk a little bit about more, just to talk a little more about the process.
Thanks, Will. That's great. I've been working with Boys in Mind since it started, and making films with the young people to tell their stories, really. I mean, all our films come from the young people themselves and what they want to talk about. And with this film, again, like Will, I had a really sort of personal interest in making it, having been bi and now identifying as gay and being a lot older. It's just amazing to see young people being so open and honest and comfortable with their identities at such a young age. And that was really clear when we were filming. I mean, I decided that we should all meet. We went to Space. There was about 8 of us there. So there were some people there who weren't in the film, partly because they were too shy, or they hadn't come out, or they didn't want to tell their stories. So everybody was in the room as we were filming. So everybody heard everybody else talking about, their experiences, and everybody filmed each other. And I think certainly for me and certainly for other people, again, it was really beautiful just to hear everybody's different experiences about what it's like now to live in a very out way. And I remember one of the young people in the room was just saying that they felt really comfortable with a group of people that understood them. And, in their lives, they didn't have those people that understood them. In their families, they didn't have those people that understood them. And I think this is the same for a lot of people in Space, is that they come to Space and suddenly it feels like home. It feels like there are people there who know what it's like to live their lives and also to be further along that journey. So we probably filmed for about an hour, and then my partner Ian had brought some food and we had some lunch and chatted. And then I took the material away and edited it together. And there was a lot more material. There was a lot more stories that people shared. But obviously, we have to make choices. And then the way I like to work with young people is for them to see the film, for them to be happy with the film, so that the only stuff that's in there is stuff that they're happy to talk about. So yeah, so that's really the film process. I mean, what happens now is that the film will go on our website, and we get views from all over the world. We've had some of the films that go onto the website, and within a couple of weeks they've had over 1,000 views. This film, I hope, gets seen a lot and also gets used in schools, used with the council, just to give people more of an understanding of the complexity and also the joy that a lot of young people feel when they find their identity. So that's about it, really, what I've got to say about the film. And I hope you enjoyed it. I'll hand back to Will.
Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, and we could not have done it without Andrew as well. So thank you ever so much, honestly. The other thing I wanted to mention just briefly before we sort of go into a little sort of panel section with Chloe, Ethne and I, was about sort of people from more marginalised backgrounds, even within the community, because I had sort of some friends who were perhaps LGBT people of colour, but they felt even harder to get involved because of perhaps family pressure, because of the different, again, intersectional level of marginalization that they were experiencing. And so I really wanted to just kind of highlight that, because actually this film is really, you know, it's really inspiring, really positive, but actually it's not telling everybody's stories. There's a lot more stories that are unheard, and it's why, you know, we need things like this to really raise the voices of LGBT people, so that, you know, LGBT people of color, for example, can feel more included in this conversation. So yeah, so now Chloe, Ethne and I are just going to have a little section where I just sort of ask them to talk a little bit about how they were involved in the film and their sort of hopes. So yeah, I suppose, I don't know who wants to go first, either Chloe or Ethne. What was it like to sort of take part in the film? What did it feel like to you to be involved, I guess? I don't know who wants to jump first.
Trying to work out who's going first. It was a really cathartic experience, I think, being involved in the film, especially as kind of mentioned earlier, that it was being like interviewed by each other, and it was like just having a conversation with a friend, and I think it was just a really wonderful thing to kind of have and talk with. Yeah.
Right. And Ethne, what was it like, the experience of being involved in this process?
Yeah, it was really, as you could say, cathartic. I also feel like it gave me a chance to process things that I maybe had just put in a box and hadn't thought about since I was like quite young. And so it was just really nice to be around people who I felt comfortable with and who I felt like I could just sit back and like process all of the things I was talking about.
Absolutely. It kind of felt like a therapy session.
No, I can resonate with that, actually, because there were things coming up for me, and you know, it was, especially Chloe, being able to be there with you, because we obviously know each other from primary school, and so it was just nice to kind of connect on that. And yeah, it was just
100%. It was very strange kind of having that, you know, imagining like the two kids who come home after school and play like go-go's or something, and now I was quite having a conversation about such kind of big feelings, and just it was kind of such an insight into growth, I guess.
Yeah, very much that. I know, Ethne, sort of you sort of mentioned about sort of supporting your trans friends, especially when we were doing the filming process, and I didn't know if you wanted to talk a little bit more about the importance of that.
Yeah, so I identify as non-binary, as you all know, so I identify as trans. And one of the things that I found being the most helpful is just having friends that consistently try to use the correct terms, to use the correct pronouns, to call people out, and having those people who I know view me as who I identify as and aren't just saying using they them pronouns so they don't upset me is so important for me, because I get misgendered a lot at school. I get misgendered a lot all the time, and so having my friends who I know support and accept and understand me is really, really helpful for me just in my day-to-day life.
Thank you for sharing that. Again, I could resonate with that, because, well, even in the film, I was saying I use he, they pronouns, and now I only use they, them pronouns. And actually, there's a few people, I know one of which is on this call at the moment, who use they, them pronouns, and actually just having a group of friends who see you for you and who really want to be there to support you is just, yeah, I know it means the world. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
You jump on that. I mean, I go with she, her, and they, them, and the people who I love the most, I'm around the most, like my uni friends, they're the ones who use they. It's the people who kind of ask, what's your preference? What do you want me to say? And the kind of just, yeah, showing that kind of love to just keep trying. And it means so much too.
And I think not being afraid of getting things wrong, because we all get things wrong. But it's the fact that people persist and try to keep keep learning, I think. And I'm just conscious of time. I didn't know of any kind of hopes for this film, of where you'd like to see this film going, or, you know, places where you'd like to see this be heard, I suppose. Don't know if you had any ideas about that.
You mentioned earlier about it being in schools, and I think that's absolutely wonderful. And like, it would be such a good thing. I wish I could have seen this as a kid, and like seen not just representation of queer people in like TV, but actual human beings, like people I can actually resonate with, rather than like actors and actresses. And yeah, getting that representation into schools and places like that just means so much.
Yeah, I think definitely if I had seen this film when I was, 13, 14, it would have been so helpful. I also think it's really important for teachers and staff to see this at schools, especially because sometimes it can be really hard to try and explain things to them, and it can feel quite strange because they're a teacher and because you're a student. So for them to see this, it might help them to gain a better understanding of what some students are going.
Yeah, I completely agree. No, thank you ever so much for both of your sharing and both being involved, and actually coming on today to talk about your experiences so fearlessly, because I know it takes a lot to do that. So thank you, big thank you to both of you. So now I think I'm going to hand back to Dina for the council response, if you want to call it that.
Thank you, Will. And I'd also like to say a massive thank you to yourself, Will, Ethne and Chloe, for sharing your experiences. And I think that really adds so much to the film as well. And I think, one of the things we'll definitely be doing as a council is promoting the film, and indeed the webinar, to schools and to youth settings as well. I'm aware that we've already had a secondary school asked to use the recording in a staff training day about how they can better support LGBTQ pupils. And I think this is, going to be so useful, as I said, to schools and to youth settings in really broadening that understanding, and so be able to put in place better support for LGBTQ plus pupils. So I think I might be handing back to you, Will.
Thank you for that. That's really great to hear. And yeah, there's a thing that I've noticed is there's a real difference between tokenistically including somebody and really listening to somebody's voice. And I think this is the kind of point where we're really starting to listen to LGBT young people and the voices of LGBT young people, which I'm really glad to be part of. So yeah, and now we've sort of got some questions from the audience. So I've got the job of selecting them. So let me just have a little look. So I'm just looking here. Some film participants mentioned coming out as queer as a really key moment. Can you tell us a bit more about this? So I suppose, I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on the panel here.
Yeah, I think that, especially for me and for the other queer people that I'm around, it's so vital when you feel that you step out from the closet into a queer space, you are now part of something, and so you now have people with you. And I think that's why it's such a key moment. I also think it's really important because even just the label queer is so fitting for some people, and it's so comforting to no longer feel unsure all the time, because you don't have to say I don't know. You can say now I'm queer, and that's why it's so important.
No, thank you, Ethne. I can really resonate with that actually, because yeah, and I know queer can be a term that has some difficulty attached to it, and I suppose it's just interesting to see how young people are really reclaiming that term to mean something all-encompassing, so beautiful, really. So thank you, Ethne, for sharing that. So another question I saw was, what ideas do we have on what schools can do to be more supportive of LGBT young people. I don't know if anybody, I've got tons of ideas about that, but I don't know if anybody wants to jump in before I do. Well, I think actually one thing is having a space for LGBT young people. And it's mentioned at Space, and having a kind of a presence that they're actually seen, as opposed to just kind of, because there's all this thing of, you know, we accept LGBT people, but it's not really shown. You need to actively show that you're really including them. And so whether that be Rainbow Laces campaign or something for Pride Day, or something for, you know, just things to mark the fact that LGBT experiences are seen, I think, in schools, and having some kind of presence of perhaps an LGBT group in school to put something like that together, I suppose. And yeah, I don't know if anybody else had any other thoughts.
I agree with you. Hi, hello everyone, I'm Melissa. I'm here on behalf of Space at Off the Record, but I agree with what you're saying, Will, and also I think having physical like materials and posters around the school also making a big difference. I think that's for anyone who wants to be an ally, is to have a rainbow somewhere in a sense, or have that information to hand, so that you know if someone says something to you, that you can say, actually, I know a really great place that can support you if you're interested. So having some sort of materials that you can also share can be a really good thing for schools to also have. So I agree, definitely that space within the schools, but also maybe wider support. How can they grow their support networks outside of the school as well?
Thank you for sharing that. Just have a look. I'll do sort of one more question. So sort of leading on from that one, actually, where can LGBTQ plus young people go for support? And Alyssa, I don't know if you wanted to jump in on that one, because you...
Sure, yeah. Great. So as I said, I'm here on behalf of Off the Record. So we are an organisation that run in Bath and North East Somerset. And one of the offerings that we have is an LGBTQ plus group called Space, which is what we're involved in the filming of this. And so they meet weekly. And it's for 13, initially it says, I think on materials it says to 21-year-olds, but it's actually going to be open to 25-year-olds as well. So 13 to 25-year-olds meeting weekly, and it's a safe space for young people to get together and meet with other people who might be going through the same sorts of things. And we also have a Space to Be, which is a monthly group, and this is for our younger LGBTQ plus kind of children, I guess. So it's 8 to 12-year-olds, and parents and carers are invited along to that as well, and that also runs in the area. So that's a monthly group. We've got these two groups that are ongoing. If anyone is interested in coming along to them or finding out more, then please do visit our website, and you can find a referral form on there. And also we actually offer an LGBTQ plus one-to-one listening service. It's kind of support service. They're 30-minute sessions. They're run with a youth worker or a listening support worker. They're youth-led. So it's a great space where young people who might be questioning their identity or struggling with coming out, or just a confidence booster to go through practical problems, for them to meet with someone for 6 sessions. I think they have 30 minutes long. There is a wait list for that. So I will say that if you are interested in kind of getting involved with Off the Record, or know anyone who might be, then maybe the groups, so Space and Space to Be, could be like the first port of call, and we can always pop you on the waiting list for the one-to-one offer if that's something that people are interested in as well. So that's what we offer at Off the Record.
Wonderful, thank you for sharing. I know sort of on a wider basis, there are sort of more national organisations, such as sort of one I just comes to mind is Mindline Trans, which is it's a sort of emotional support line I think it's open 3 days a week, I want to say, and that's specifically for trans, non-binary, and sort of gender non-conforming people to just speak to people who actually identify, part of the gender non-conforming community, to just kind of chat, just a free, non-judgmental space. And there's often flyers around, especially I would assume at Space there's probably flyers around about that as well. One other I can think of is Just Like Us, which is an LGBT young people's charity, which does sort of sessions in schools. This is on a more national level now, but yeah, they do sessions in schools. And yeah, there's often a lot of resources out there on the internet. And that's the thing that with another thing I wanted to mention today is often, especially because a lot of the time people say they don't necessarily understand a term about how people identify as, and it's very, very easy, I would say, to do a Google search and have a look at what's on there, and because it's about sometimes doing that research yourself to really be a good ally and really look out for LGBT people generally. I don't know if there was any other questions. We'll just have a look. Or, well, if any other panel members want to sort of say anything in particular, feel free to just pop out now.
Just in terms of, so a big problem, or I guess something that impacts quite a lot of young LGBTQ plus people is ending up homeless as well. So there's a homelessness charity specifically supporting young queer people called AKT, and they actually have an office in Bristol. So they also support the whole of the Southwest. So there is, as Will was saying, support out there as well for kind of different aspects or different things that young people might need as well. But if anyone's struggling to find that support, I'd say just reach out to someone first of all. One of the organisations that we've listed, it can be Off the Record, and we will do our best to kind of signpost you in the right direction if we can't offer the support ourselves.
Will, I don't know if you saw the question in the chat, sorry to butt in, but there was, I thought, a good question from one of the audience members about where should perhaps a parent go for help and support? Yeah,
so I think, again, I don't necessarily know for sure, but I if I remember rightly, with things like gendered intelligence, they've got a lot of different national sort of LGBT websites. There's a lot of things that have a sort of for parents section where you can actually look, and they might have resources or breakdowns, or actually sometimes I know for gendered intelligence, for they've actually got a parents group for perhaps young people who are coming out as or transitioning, and they've got a parents group for parents to just support each other through that process as well. And so there are sort of things. So gendered intelligence is one I know for sure, but oftentimes on sort of wider organisations that I assume for Off the Record as well, there's a sort of for parents section. And yeah, I like to sort of get sort of similar, I know on Boys in Mind's website as well, we've got a sort of for parents section. And so I'd like to really make sure that parents are feeling included in that as well. And actually, I suppose just really listening to LGBT young people and saying, what can we do to best support you? And just really listening to them and hearing their experiences, I suppose.
To add to that. Oh yeah.
Sorry.
You go.
After you, Alyssa. Okay. I mean, I've been muted. My partner and I are foster carers, and there's an organisation called New Family Social, which are great for for LGBT foster carers, but also they have a site for other people, to look and find out information about the community.
Thanks. And to add to that, I was going to mention FLAG. I don't know if people have heard of it. It's FFLAG, and they actually run a. It's not in Bath, it's in Bristol, so a bit of a drive, but they have good resources on their website. But there is a parent and kind of carer support group that runs. So it's for parents of young people who are LGBTQ plus. But if not the group, then their website has some brilliant resources, like things like finding out my child is gay or my child is transgender, and kind of top tips on how to support your child through that as well. So have a look at that website as well. Oh, it's in the chat, thanks.
And it just occurred to me, obviously, with our connections with schools, it would be good to actually highlight, this webinar and also the film to parents. All schools do regular newsletters, don't they, to parents and to guardians. And I'll also make sure this comes up in our corporate parenting sessions as well. So, because all counsellors are corporate parents of looked after children too, so we can make sure the message is really being spread far and wide around what it is like to be LGBTQ as a young person.
Thank you, Dina. And yeah, no, if there are any specific questions, so that's a really good one about support for parents. If there are any sort of specific questions like that you would want to know that would be useful to go with that, when we spread the film around, do feel free to pop them in the chat. And because I'm really, I think it'd be really great to sort of have these kind of resources go alongside the film, so that it kind of comes as a good package of how we can best support LGBT young people. Yes, so I didn't know if anybody else from the panel wants to say anything at all about the process or about the involvement or anything else they want to say.
I think one of the things about finding help if you're a young person is to remember your friends. So I think that came up very clearly in the during the filming, and very often you may find some of your friends are going through a similar process of questioning their identity. So yes, do reach out to your friends and your peer group.
Yeah, I mentioned that briefly when I was talking in the film, actually, so my friend came out to me first, and then I came out to him, and then time went on, and I think it was about 8 of us in my friend group that ended up coming out in the space of about a month. And it just shows you that actually all of us thought that we were alone going through this experience, and it takes that strength of one person to really just put your head above and actually find everybody sort of come see you and thanks you for that, and really might be understanding. I did see that there was a question about could we have the support info for the foster carers in the chat. Andrew, I didn't know if you might be able to find that one off. That would be amazing. Well, I suppose just before we sort of close up, I just wanted to come to each person and just sort of invite them to say, I know I keep saying this, invite them to sort of say, Ethne, I didn't know if you had anything else you wanted to add to here, or
I guess what my main point is to just try and be kind and be supportive, because when you don't experience something or when you aren't aware of something, it can sometimes just completely pass you by what someone else is going through or what someone else wants to share but doesn't feel comfortable to. So creating a safe environment will not only allow them to feel more comfortable, but for you to feel more comfortable and everyone else, so that everybody can be more authentic and be more themselves, really.
Thank you, Ethne. Chloe, I didn't know if you had any final reflections.
I think it's exactly what everyone's saying. It's been so kind of important to me and important to so many people I know to have that safe space, to have that kind of place where even if you don't know what your label is, even if you have absolutely no idea, it's just creating an environment that almost certainly is already there. It's just that bravery to take the first step, but allowing people to, you know, explore and work things out, and having open conversations can be more helpful than I think any of us realized at the start of our journeys. But it's honestly, it's probably one of the things that has helped me through all of it the most. And also I want to say thank you to Boys in Mind for giving and creating a space to create this film and to bring out the voices of younger LGBTQ plus people. I think is really important.
Thanks so much, Chloe. Alyssa, I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to say at all.
No, just want to acknowledge and thank everyone who is involved with the video, because it is really, I think, special to be given insight into someone's journey, their queer journey. And I think, yeah, feel honoured to kind of have watched that and received that from other people. So thank you to everyone who was part of that. And I guess to anyone else who's out there, and as you're all saying, if you are feeling alone, then definitely reach out to someone if you can, or speak to a friend. And just like Chloe was saying, there are people out there who will be there to support you. Yeah.
I'll come to you, Andrew, if you've got any final reflections.
Yeah, I suppose this is one of the many films we've made through Boys in Mind, or with Boys in Mind. And I think it just shows the diversity of the young people who are involved in Boys in Mind. And also how much we're looking to challenge conventions and challenge stereotypes within Boys in Mind, and also to provide help for other young people. So check out the Boys in Mind website, and check out some of the other websites that have been mentioned, and just spread the word. Just take time to find out about pronouns and start using them, and just spread the word to throughout the friends, because this is a film that we hope will go a long way, and just gently help people to change their minds.
I suppose my final reflections on that was just first off, I really want to thank Baines Council for giving this platform to actually show this, because we want to get out as far as we can, but the support from Baines Council to have this platform and webinar today is really, really wonderful and really helpful in that sort of first step of the journey. So thank you ever so much to everybody who's involved. I want to thank everybody at Space, so Alyssa, who's on the call today, and Harriet and Jack as well, who really helped get a lot of the young people involved, and gave us a space, and allowed me to come along and talk and try and get some people involved. And I want to thank everybody who's been involved in the process, whether they're in the film or not. Actually, there's a lot of people who've been in the background of this process, who've a lot of LGBT young people who've been in this and kind of contributed their thoughts to the process, and it wouldn't be where it is today without all of them as well. I was saying everybody on this call, I sound like I'm doing an Oscar speech here, but yeah, no, and everybody who's come along today, I really want to thank you, because it's like a monumentous moment for me, because it's been something I've wanted to see for my whole life. I really, really wanted to put something like this together, so it's just so amazing to sort of see it in the flesh, really. So yeah, I'll hand back to Dean.
Thank you, Will. I'd like to thank you all for taking part in tonight's webinar, and also for everybody who took part in the film. I'd also like to thank in particular Will for the work that you do with Boys in Mind, and also for your excellent chairing of the panel tonight. I'd like to thank you, the audience, for attending and for your really interesting questions. And I hope you found the film and the webinar useful and of interest. So this webinar has been recorded and will be available on the Council's YouTube channel and will be updated with details of the various support networks that have been mentioned tonight. Would you share this webinar widely, particularly with those that couldn't attend this evening? And if you want to give us any feedback, then details of how to do so, as well as information and contact details on Space at Off the Record and Boys in Mind, will be on the final slide. So my final thoughts are to say thank you to everybody for your participation and good night to everyone.